what's up, Slunts? Joker here. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the release of the AMD R9 300 series as well as the Fury and Fury X cards, which are set to be coming out next week, as we've already got some benchmarks that have come in on the cards. They're for sale now. You can go and pick them up on Newegg, at least the 390Xs, not the Furies yet. Those are still yet to come, as those are on a newer architecture, where as the 390X is really just a rebranded 290X Hawaii chip, same amount of stream processors, slightly higher clock speed, and it does have 8 gigabytes of video memory, which we did see on some of the 290X cards actually already. From manufacturers like Sapphire, they had a card come out with the 290X with 8 gigabytes of video memory, and that's priced in at only $375, whereas compared to the counterpart on the 390X side, it's $430 for basically the exact same card. And that pricing is consistent across the board with manufacturers like MSI, Asus, Gigabyte, XFX, PowerColor. You're looking at around the $430 to $450 point for basically an 8 gigabyte 290X. Now, the question that you might want to ask yourself here is, why would you go out and buy a rebranded 8 gigabyte card on the same exact architecture when you can go out and you can pick up the 290X for $375? And not only that, but it comes with a free copy of Dirt Rally, which the 390X does not come with. It doesn't come with any free games. They'll probably do something with that a little bit down the road if sales start to slip. But as of right now, the 290X 8 gigabyte card you can pick up for $375, which is a hell of a deal because it does compete with the 980, as well as the 390X also competes with the GTX 980. Pretty much goes neck and neck with that card, which is actually priced higher. The NVIDIA card is $500. With that, you're also getting, things like GameWorks and what I would argue as being better drivers, Shadow Play, all that good stuff. And also, get a free copy of Batman Arkham Knight right now, also with the 900 series cards. But that's not to say that AMD doesn't have its positives. If you're on an older generation, if you weren't coming from the 200 series, maybe you're a little bit older back on AMD or NVIDIA, then, and you're looking to upgrade, then it's worth considering a 300 series card. But really, I mean, if you're just coming up now, why not just get a 290X, which is the same exact thing as the 390X at a cheaper price, and you get a game with it? I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Now, we still have to wait until next week to see the official numbers coming in on the Fury and Fury X cards to see how that's going to compete, although we do initially have some numbers in from AMD themselves. Now, remember, these numbers are in from AMD themselves, and in every game they tested, the Fury X was beating out the 980 Ti by a small margin, usually like about 5 to 10 frames, sometimes a little bit closer, but they were beating them out in everything. And these are benchmarks run by AMD, so I would take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I wouldn't really trust numbers until we see them coming in from third-party outlets like trusted review sources and, YouTubers, things like that, until we start seeing some numbers rolling in from those sorts of people. But looking at these numbers, I mean, they're very neck and neck with the 980 Ti, so I would have to think personally, if the numbers were this close, as close as they are, then I would have to think that the 980 Ti would probably win out at least a few of the benchmarks. I mean, that just happens just, in random. It could be a hiccup in performance here or there, whatever. But I think the 980 Ti would have edged out in a couple of these games, at least, especially Witcher 3. AMD is notorious for having not been optimized well for Witcher 3, as well as some other previous GameWorks titles. But Witcher 3 was one of the most recent ones, and there was a lot of controversy in the community about how it was optimized on AMD drivers. So I find it a little bit far-fetched that they're beating NVIDIA, on this game by as many frames as it is, when some of the other games they tested are so close in these benchmarks, like Battlefield 4, which I think is a fair test when putting AMD against NVIDIA, because they both just scale very, very well in that particular game, because it is a well-optimized engine that does utilize almost like pretty much 100% of your graphics cards. If you just let it out and run, even an SLI or Crossfire, it's going to use the full benefit of your system. If you have VSync off or whatever, I always see my cards in that game running at like 90% plus usage. So that is a good game that I would consider a benchmark for comparison, and you could expect the performance difference that you see on a game like that, as well as in benchmarks like Unigine Heaven or Valley, being very, very consistent as the performance you could expect across a wide gambit of titles. So there was a news story that came across my desk this morning after someone had sent it to me, which I found really, really alarming. It's actually something I've never seen ever talked about publicly before, which begs the question for me is whether if this stuff has happened before. I have to imagine that it has. Not necessarily just with AMD, but even with other manufacturers, maybe even like with video games. Because basically what happened here is KitGuru put out an article the other day reporting on the 300 series, much like I am now, where they basically cited it as being a rebrand of the 200 series. And I'll read you the exact quote from their final words at the end of that article. They said, the Radeon R9 and R7 300 series graphics cards are based on mature graphics processing units and thus do not bring support of any revolutionary features. While the new graphics cards are clearly faster than their predecessors powered by the same GPUs, do not expect them to offer breakthrough performance. So that sounds, that sounds honest and forthright, and it just sounds like they're, treating their audience with the level of respect that they should and giving them their honest opinions on the card, completely unbiased. But what happened after that is that AMD has actually gone ahead and pulled their reserved review sample for the Fury X card, which they were set to be getting, very, very soon for the review. They had it reserved, just like you would expect with getting a graphics card for review. You get it kind of before release so you can run your numbers and then get out your performance reviews as the embargo dates lift. So, but AMD went ahead and they pulled their review sample, contacted them, said that they weren't going to be giving them a review sample after this article because they said some negative things, or their quote-unquote negative content about the AMD 300 series. So they pulled their Fury X cards, which is just unbelievable. I can't believe that something like this is happening. I've never heard of this happening before, but like I said earlier, it makes me question now, how often does this happen with other types of hardware, other mediums like video games? Are people losing review samples for games? Would I expect maybe Ubisoft to pull a review sample for a game because I've talked about them negatively on my channel? I would sure the hell hope not. And I respect KitGuru for coming out and saying this and being very public and honest about it, in saying that they're not going to allow, AMD to dictate the content they're going to produce and the opinions they're going to give on a product, just because they're threatening to pull a review sample and because they won't be getting free hardware. I would hope that they're going to be 100% honest in their videos, just like I try to be in mine, or in their articles, they say, like I try to be in my videos. And that's something I expect from every hardware reviewer I watch. And there's very few people that I watch on a consistent basis that I don't trust. I try to pick my YouTubers and my articles and websites I read off of very carefully. So I just because of this, I haven't really read up on KitGuru before. I've heard of them, but never really visited their website. But now seeing this makes me respect them a hell of a lot, and makes it more likely for me to go out and check them out for reviews in the future, because now I know that they're on the up and up. I know they're being honest with their readers, and that's something that I just always look for in anything, especially hardware and stuff that I'm looking to buy as maybe a consumer. But that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below about the 300 series and about what's going on with KitGuru and their review sample getting pulled by AMD, which I can't believe that they've actually done this. It's ludicrous. So let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below. I would appreciate your feedback on that. Don't forget to stick a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're not already. And if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, you could always follow me on Twitter @JokerSlunt. I'll catch you guys next time. Turn.